A recent Anti-Defamation League survey finds anti-Semitic attitudes are at their highest levels in decades. The survey of 4,000 people conducted by the National Opinion Research Center at the University of Chicago found about 85% of Americans believe at least one anti-Jewish trope. It was 61% in 2019. 20% of Americans believe 6 or more tropes, up from 11% in 2019. Now, the survey also found that age does not play much of a role. 18% of young adults surveyed believed 6 or more tropes, and 20-year-olds and older, 20%, sorry about that, 20% of older adults felt the same. And joining me now is Scott Levin with the Mountain States chapter of the Anti-Defamation League. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Good morning. Great to be here.
Okay, so we just went over some of the top results of the survey. Tell us more about the tropes that the survey.
The trope measures the classic conspiracy theories that have been leveled against Jews for generations about power, control, greed, being more loyal to Israel than the United States, those types of things that have over time led to quite violent and troubling past in this country.
Yeah, let's talk about some of that violence or some incidents. Has the ADL noticed a % increase in that?
We have been at the highest number of incidents in a very long time. We don't have our numbers in yet for last year, but it looks like they'll still be at very difficult and high levels. The year before, we were at our peak here in Colorado, and it is very troubling. Everything from the things that people say and act towards each other to these terrible white supremacist flyers that have been left on people's lawns alleging that Jews are responsible for everything from COVID to 9/11.
Yeah, and it's hard to hear hate from anywhere around the world, but also like here in Colorado, you know, we just think there's so many nice and giving people here in Colorado. But there is, like you said, there are incidents that happen here.
There are, and I think what we're seeing is there's just been a normalization of hate that's been taking place in general against all different types of people. We've been measuring it with these anti-Semitic attitudes since 1964. Back then, that disease of anti-Semitism was fully about 30% of the country. It had dropped down to 9, 10, 11%. But to now pop up in just this three-year period of time to 20% is very, very difficult.
Why is it so important to have surveys like this?
Well, if you don't measure things, you can't manage them, as has famously been said. And I think it's important for us, in order to diagnose what this disease is about and try to confront it in many different strategies and ways that we try to do, primarily trying to bring awareness to people, because so much of what's going on now is the normalization of anti-Semitism, racism, Islamophobia, and so many other forms of hate.
So you bring this disease to the spotlight. How can we combat this?
One way we can do that is really to speak up for each other. In the case of the anti-Semitism, the Jewish people in the United States, it might surprise people to know, are only 2% of the country. We're not going to be able to do this on our own. It's going to take a whole of society approach, and that means it's going to take my neighbors speaking up for me just like I speak up for them.
We have to have each other's back, right?
Absolutely.
All right. Scott Levin, thank you so much. Thanks for
pleasure.
coming on. And you can read more about the Anti-Defamation League's Anti-Semitic Attitudes survey on our website, cbscolorado.com.
This is a First Alert.